How does one careless truth or dare confession on a boat become the final proof my husband needed to end our marriage? For good, and in front of everyone. What starts as a joke, a flex among friends, spirals into a public reckoning when my husband plays back my laughter at his birthday dinner, shattering every illusion of loyalty. Can I still call him the villain, when all my secrets fit so neatly into his hands? I should have known that recording everything would come back to haunt me. But on that sunny Saturday afternoon, floating on Lake Harrison with our closest friends, I felt invincible. The wine was flowing, the sun was perfect, and everyone was laughing at my stories, especially the one about my ex-boyfriend Marcus. "Truth or dare, Leah?" Marina, my younger sister, called out from her spot on the boat's cushioned bench. Her cheeks were flushed from the rosé, and she had that mischievous glint in her eyes that always spelled trouble. "Truth," I said, raising my wine glass dramatically. "I've got nothing to hide." The group of 8 friends cheered. Jonas, my husband of 9 years, sat quietly at the boat's edge, his history teacher demeanor making him seem older than his 37 years. He was always the observer, never the entertainer. That was my role. "Okay," Marina giggled, "who was the best lover you ever had?" I felt Jonas tense beside me, but the wine made me bold. "Oh, that's easy. Marcus Delacroix from college. That man could do things that would make you forget your own name." The group erupted in laughter and wolf whistles. Someone, I think it was Derek, Jonas's college buddy, shouted, "Damn, Leah, tell us how you really feel." "I'm serious," I continued, riding the wave of attention. "Marcus beat everyone who came after. I mean everyone." I glanced at Jonas, who was staring at his beer bottle. "Sorry, honey, but facts are facts." More laughter. Marina was practically falling off her seat. "Oh my God, Leah, you're terrible." "What? We're all adults here. Jonas knows he married up." I reached over and ruffled his hair like he was a child. "Don't you, baby?" Jonas looked up at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Sure, Leah, whatever you say." See? He gets it. Jonas is background noise compared to Marcus, but background noise pays the bills and takes out the trash, so it works out. The entire boat was in stitches. Even Silas, my conflict-avoiding brother, was chuckling despite himself. Only Jonas remained stone-faced, but I figured he was just being his usual overly sensitive self. "You're going to get in trouble for that one," Derek warned, still laughing. "Please, Jonas doesn't have the spine to get upset about anything. Do you, sweetie?" Jonas stood up slowly, his 6-foot frame casting a shadow over me. For a moment, I thought he might actually say something back. Instead, he just walked to the other end of the boat and started talking to the captain about fishing spots. "Ooh, someone's in the doghouse," Marina sang. "He'll get over it. He always does." What I didn't notice was Jonas's phone, sitting on the bench beside where I'd been holding court. The voice recording app was open, the red dot blinking steadily. Later, I'd learn he'd been documenting our fun conversations for weeks. That night, back in our downtown apartment, Jonas was unusually quiet. Even for him. He sat in his study, a converted bedroom filled with history books and student papers, with his laptop open and headphones on. "What are you working on?" I asked, leaning against the doorframe in my silk pajamas. "Just school stuff," he said without looking up. "It's Saturday night, Jonas. Live a little." He finally turned to face me. "Like you did on the boat today." There it was, the wounded husband routine. "Oh, come on. It was just a game. Everyone was laughing." "Everyone except me." "That's because you have no sense of humor. It was a joke, Jonas, a harmless joke." "Telling 8 people that your ex was better than me in bed is harmless." I rolled my eyes. "You're being too sensitive, again. This is exactly why Marcus was more fun. He could take a joke." Jonas's jaw tightened. "Right. Marcus, the guy who was so much better at everything." "I didn't say everything. Just certain things." I smirked, thinking I was being playful. "Got it. He turned back to his laptop. I'll keep that in mind. I shrugged and headed to bed. Jonas could sulk all he wanted. By morning, he'd be back to his usual accommodating self, making me coffee and asking what I wanted for breakfast. He always forgave me. It was one of his most reliable qualities. What I didn't see was the audio file on his screen, time-stamped from that afternoon, or the folder labeled evidence that he'd been building for months. Jonas might have been background noise, but background noise, I was about to learn, picks up everything. The next morning, Jonas was indeed making coffee when I wandered into the kitchen. But something felt different. He handed me my usual mug without the small smile he typically wore. Thanks, I said, waiting for him to ask about my plans for the day. Instead, he just nodded and started loading the dishwasher. Jonas, everything okay? Everything's fine, Leah. But it wasn't fine. Over the next few days, I noticed small changes. Jonas stopped asking about my work events. He didn't comment when I came home late from client dinners. He even stopped trying to initiate conversations about Eva, our 8-year-old daughter. The weird thing was, I should have been relieved. For months, I'd been frustrated by Jonas's questions, his attempts to connect, his boring predictability. But his sudden disinterest felt unsettling, especially since I'd been seeing Miles Ibarra, my former co-worker, for the past 3 months. Miles was everything Jonas wasn't: spontaneous, exciting, dangerous. At 35, he had the kind of confidence that came from never being rejected, never being told he was too much or inappropriate. When he'd left our marketing agency for a better IT consulting position, I thought that would be the end of our flirtation. Instead, it became the beginning of something else entirely. Your husband sounds like a real piece of work, Miles said during one of our Tuesday afternoon hotel meetings. We'd been meeting at the Marriott downtown for 6 weeks, always between 2 and 4 p.m., always when Jonas thought I was in client meetings. He's not terrible, I said, adjusting my blouse. Just boring, predictable. He teaches high school history, for God's sake. His idea of excitement is finding a new documentary about World War II. Miles laughed, that rich sound that made my stomach flutter. And you're stuck with that? For now. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Jonas. Shit, I need to go. Hot date with the history teacher. Eva has a school thing. Jonas gets weird if I'm late for family stuff. Family stuff, Miles repeated, shaking his head. You know there's a whole world out there, right? You don't have to live like a suburban housewife forever. The thing was, I didn't feel like a suburban housewife. I felt like I was finally living, finally being appreciated for who I really was. Miles saw my ambition, my intelligence, my sexuality. Jonas saw someone who needed to be managed and accommodated. When I got home that evening, Jonas was helping Eva with her math homework at the kitchen table. They both looked up when I walked in, Eva's face lighting up with a smile that made my chest tight. Mommy, Daddy helped me with fractions and we made cookies. That's great, baby. I kissed the top of her head, inhaling her little girl's scent of strawberry shampoo and vanilla. Sorry I'm late. The Morrison account ran long. Jonas didn't say anything, just gathered up Eva's worksheets. Bath time, kiddo. Can Mommy read to me tonight? Mommy's probably tired from her long meeting, Jonas said. I'll read to you. There was something in his tone that made me look at him more carefully, but Eva was already chattering about her day, and the moment passed. Later, after Eva was asleep, I found Jonas in his study again. This time, the door was closed. Jonas, I knocked softly. Can we talk? I'm busy, Leah. Busy with what? It's 9 o'clock on a Tuesday. The door opened. Jonas stood there in his reading glasses looking tired. What do you need? I need to know why you're being so cold to me. Ever since the boat trip, you've been different. Have I? Yes. You barely talk to me. You don't ask about my day. You're always locked up in here doing God knows what. Jonas leaned against the doorframe. You want me to ask about your day? Yes. We're married, Jonas. We're supposed to communicate. Okay. How was your day, Leah? Something about the way he said it made my skin prickle. It was fine. Long client meeting, like I said. The Morrison account. Right. Interesting, because I called your office around 3 to see if you wanted to grab lunch. Stephanie said you'd left for the day. My heart skipped, but I kept my expression neutral. I met the client off-site, at their offices. Which are where exactly? Downtown, the financial district. I crossed my arms. Why are you interrogating me? Just curious about your work. You said I should ask about your day. This isn't asking, Jonas. This is an inquisition. He studied my face for a long moment. You're right. I'm sorry. I'll try to be more supportive. But he didn't sound sorry. He sounded like he was filing away information. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling while Jonas slept beside me. His breathing was even, peaceful, but I felt like there was a wall between us that hadn't been there before, a wall I'd built with my lies, but that he was reinforcing with his silence. The next morning, I couldn't find my phone charger. I always left it on my nightstand, but it was gone. Jonas, have you seen my charger? Check the kitchen, he called from the bathroom. It wasn't in the kitchen, or the living room, or my purse. Finally, I found it in Jonas's study, plugged into his laptop. Why was my charger in your study? I asked when he came out of the shower. Mine broke. I borrowed it. Sorry. But when I plugged my phone in, I noticed something strange. All my deleted text messages from the past week had somehow reappeared. Messages to Miles, messages to Marina complaining about Jonas, messages to my hairstylist cancelling appointments I'd told Jonas I was keeping. Jonas, I said slowly, did you do something to my phone? Like what? I don't know, but my messages are all weird. He shrugged, knotting his tie. Maybe it's a software update. You know I don't understand technology. But Jonas had been using computers for his teaching for 15 years. He understood plenty. That afternoon, I met Marina for coffee at our usual spot downtown. I needed someone to talk to, someone who would take my side without question. He's being so strange, I told her, stirring my latte anxiously. Quiet, distant, but also somehow more present, like he's watching everything I do. Marina, blessed with the same dark hair and green eyes that ran in our family, but cursed with none of my caution, waved dismissively. He probably knows about Miles. Keep your voice down, I hissed, looking around the crowded cafe. Oh, please, half the city knows about Miles. You two aren't exactly subtle. What do you mean? Leah, you light up like a Christmas tree whenever someone mentions his name, and you've been dressing like you're 25 again. Jonas would have to be blind not to notice. My stomach dropped. You think he knows? I think he suspects. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I don't know. End it with Miles, I guess. Marina nearly choked on her cappuccino. Are you insane? Miles is the best thing that's happened to you in years. Jonas is the one who should go. Marina, I have a daughter. I can't just blow up my family for a fling. It's not a fling if it's making you happy. And Jonas isn't making you happy, is he? She was right about that. Jonas hadn't made me truly happy in years. But there was something about his recent behavior that scared me. The quiet watchfulness, the careful questions, the way he'd started organizing papers in his study late into the night. Just be careful, Marina said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. And whatever you do, don't confess anything. Make him prove it if he thinks he knows something. That evening, Jonas made dinner, his famous spaghetti carbonara that Eva loved. We sat around our small dining table like a normal family, Eva chattering about her friend's birthday party, Jonas asking appropriate parental questions, but I caught him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking, and when Eva spilled sauce on her shirt and ran to change, Jonas and I were left alone at the table. Leah, he said quietly, is there anything you want to tell me? My heart hammered against my ribs. About what? About us, about our marriage, about whether you're happy. The question was so gentle, so genuine, that for a moment I considered telling him everything. About Miles, about how lonely I'd been, about how I felt like I was disappearing into the role of wife and mother. Instead, I said, "I'm fine, Jonas. We're fine. Why would you ask that?" He nodded slowly. "Just checking." But as he cleared the dishes, I saw him slip something into his pocket. It looked like a small recording device. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Marina's words, about Jonas's questions, about the way Miles had looked at me that afternoon when I'd told him I might need to be more careful. "You're not going to let him control you, are you?" Miles had asked. "You deserve better than a life of walking on eggshells." Maybe he was right. Maybe I did deserve better. But as I lay there listening to Jonas breathe beside me, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something that would change everything, and that Jonas, quiet, predictable Jonas, was the one orchestrating it. Jonas's 38th birthday fell on a Friday in October. I'd made reservations at Meridian, the upscale restaurant downtown where we'd had our anniversary dinner 3 years ago, back when we still pretended to celebrate milestones. "Do we have to do the big family thing?" Jonas had asked when I told him about the dinner. "It's your birthday, Jonas. Your parents want to celebrate with you. Eva's excited. It'll be fun." What I didn't say was that I needed the public setting. Things had been increasingly tense between us for weeks, and I was hoping a room full of people would force us both to act normal, to remember why we'd worked once upon a time. Lenore and Paul Venn arrived first, Jonas's parents carrying wrapped gifts and wearing the kind of forced smiles that meant they'd been discussing our marriage in the car. Lenore, a retired school principal, had never quite approved of me. She thought I was too flashy, too ambitious, too focused on things that didn't matter. Paul, quieter but no less judgmental, usually just nodded along with whatever his wife decided. "Eulalia," Lenore said, kissing my cheek with lips that barely made contact. "You look vibrant." I was wearing a red dress that Miles had complimented the week before. Maybe not the most appropriate choice for a family dinner, but I felt good in it, confident. "Thank you, Lenore. You look lovely too." Marina and Silas arrived next, followed by Derek and his girlfriend, and 2 other couples from Jonas's teaching world. By 7:30, we had a table of 12, with Eva perched on a booster seat between Jonas and me. Her hair in the French braid I'd spent 20 minutes perfecting. The conversation flowed easily at first. Teaching stories, family updates, Eva showing off her loose tooth to anyone who would listen. I found myself relaxing, remembering why I'd once enjoyed these gatherings. Then the wine arrived. "A toast," Derek announced, raising his glass. "To Jonas, the most patient man I know. Seriously, dude, you deserve sainthood for putting up with all of us." Everyone laughed and clinked glasses, but something about the word patient rubbed me wrong. Like Jonas was some long-suffering martyr instead of a man married to a successful, attractive woman. "Patient is one word for it," I said, taking a larger sip of wine than I'd intended. "I prefer passive." The table went quiet for a beat. Then Marina laughed, breaking the tension. "Leah's just mad because Jonas forgot to take out the trash again this morning." "I don't forget," Jonas said mildly. "I just have different priorities." "Like what? Grading papers about dead presidents?" More uncomfortable laughter. Lenore's smile had turned glacial. "Mom tells the best jokes," Eva piped up, oblivious to the undercurrents. "She's the funniest person in our family." "She certainly thinks so," Paul muttered into his wine glass. The comment stung, but I pushed forward. "I was just teasing. Jonas knows I think his work is important. Don't you, honey?" Jonas looked at me with that unreadable expression he'd been wearing for weeks. "Sure, Leah, whatever you say." There it was again, that phrase that had become his default response to everything I said. It was starting to grate on me. See, he gets it. Jonas is very understanding, very accommodating. Sometimes I think he'd agree with anything just to avoid conflict. That's not necessarily a bad quality in a husband, Lenore said pointedly. No, but it's not exactly exciting either. I was definitely drinking too much, but the words kept coming. Sometimes I think Jonas would rather read about history than actually live it. Derek shifted uncomfortably. Come on, Leah. Jonas is solid, dependable. That's worth something. Oh, absolutely. Dependable is great. Background noise is very reliable. The phrase slipped out before I could stop it. The same phrase I'd used on the boat, the one that had started this whole Cold War between Jonas and me. But this time, instead of laughter, I was met with silence. Eva tugged on my sleeve. What's background noise, Mummy? Before I could answer, Jonas stood up. Actually, Eva, that's a great question, and I think I have something that might help explain it. He pulled out his phone, and my blood turned to ice. Jonas, I said quickly, what are you doing? Just sharing a memory from our boat trip last month. I thought everyone might enjoy hearing it. That's not necessary. But he was already pressing play. My voice filled the restaurant's private dining room, clear and loud and unmistakably mine. Marcus beat everyone who came after. I mean everyone. Sorry, honey, but facts are facts. The table was dead silent. Eva looked confused. Marina's eyes were wide with horror. Lenore looked like she'd swallowed something bitter, but Jonas wasn't done. Oh, that's not the best part, he said, scrolling through his phone. Here we go. Again, my voice. Jonas is background noise compared to Marcus. But background noise pays the bills and takes out the trash, so it works out. The laughter from the boat was clearly audible, including my own delighted giggling. But in this setting, surrounded by Jonas's family and friends, it sounded cruel. Vicious. Jonas, I whispered, please stop. Why? You said it was just a joke, harmless fun. I thought everyone should get to enjoy it. Lenore stood up abruptly. We should go. Mom, sit down, Jonas said calmly. We haven't had dessert yet. I don't think. Please, sit. Down. There was something in his voice that made everyone freeze. Jonas, quiet Jonas, had never used that tone before. Not with his mother, not with anyone. Lenore sat. Now, Jonas continued, I want everyone to understand something. This recording is from 6 weeks ago. Since then, I've been doing some thinking, some research, some fact-checking. My hands were shaking. Jonas, don't do this. Not here. Not in front of Eva. Eva, Jonas said gently, why don't you go wash your hands? The bathroom is right over there. Our daughter, sensing the tension even if she didn't understand it, scrambled down from her chair and hurried away. The moment she was gone, Jonas's demeanor shifted completely. 6 weeks ago, my wife publicly humiliated me in front of our friends. She compared me unfavorably to her ex-boyfriend, called me background noise and laughed about it. I was embarrassed, hurt and angry. But I didn't say anything because I thought maybe she was just drunk, just being careless with her words. He paused, looking around the table. But then I started paying attention, really paying attention, to where she went, who she talked to, how she spent her time, and I learned some very interesting things. Jonas, stop, I pleaded. For instance, he continued, ignoring me. Did you all know that Leah has been having an affair for the past 3 months? The words hit the table like a bomb. Marina gasped. Derek's girlfriend made a small sound of shock. Lenore closed her eyes like she was praying. That's not true, I said automatically. Jonas smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Miles Ibarra, ET consultant, former co-worker. They meet every Tuesday and Thursday at the Marriott downtown between 2 and 4 p.m. Room 412, usually, though sometimes they mix it up with 318. The specificity of the details made my stomach lurch. How do you... Credit card statements, hotel loyalty program emails that you forgot to delete, text messages that you thought were gone but weren't. Oh, and my personal favorite. He scrolled through his phone again. A voicemail you left for Miles last week when you thought you were calling him, but accidentally called me instead. He pressed play. My voice again, breathy and intimate. Hey, sexy. Jonas is working late tonight, so we could actually go to your place for once. I'm tired of hotel rooms. I want to see your bedroom, want to wake up in your bed. The message went on for another 30 seconds. By the time it ended, I wanted to crawl under the table and disappear forever. Jonas, Silas said quietly, maybe we should... Should what? Pretend this isn't happening? Pretend my wife hasn't been lying to me for months while I made her coffee every morning and helped our daughter with homework every night? Eva came skipping back from the bathroom, and Jonas's voice immediately softened. Ready for dessert, kiddo. But the damage was done. The entire table knew. Jonas's parents, his friends, my own siblings, they all knew what I'd done, what I'd been doing, what kind of person I really was. As the waiter brought out a birthday cake with 38 candles, I sat there in my red dress, surrounded by people who would never look at me the same way again. And Jonas, calm and controlled Jonas, smiled as Eva helped him blow out the candles. But his eyes, when they met mine across the flickering flames, were colder than I'd ever seen them. Make a wish, Daddy, Eva chirped. I already got what I wanted, Jonas said, never breaking eye contact with me. That's when I knew I was in real trouble. The ride home from the restaurant was the longest 20 minutes of my life. Eva chattered about the cake and the presents, blissfully unaware that her parents' marriage had just exploded in public. Jonas drove in complete silence, his hands steady on the wheel, his face giving nothing away. I kept replaying the dinner in my head, the shocked faces around the table, the way Lenore had looked at me like I was something she'd scrape off her shoe, the way Marina had tried to catch my eye, her expression a mixture of sympathy and horror. But it was Jonas's calm that terrified me most. The methodical way he'd presented his evidence, the precision of his details, the fact that he'd planned this whole thing. This wasn't the Jonas I knew, the one who apologized when I raised my voice and brought me coffee when I was hungover. This Jonas was dangerous. Back at the apartment, I helped Eva get ready for bed while Jonas disappeared into his study. Our bedtime routine felt surreal. Reading stories, discussing her day, tucking her in like we were still a normal family. Mummy, Eva said as I was turning off her light, why was everyone so quiet at dinner? My throat tightened. Sometimes grown-ups have complicated feelings, baby. But Daddy and I both love you very much, okay? Are you and Daddy fighting? The question pierced through me. We're just working through some things, but it has nothing to do with you, sweetheart. You're the best thing in both our lives. She seemed satisfied with that answer, but as I closed her bedroom door, I wondered how long it would be before she started asking harder questions. Jonas was waiting for me in the living room when I emerged. He'd changed out of his dinner clothes into jeans and a t-shirt, and he was holding a manila folder. We need to talk, he said. Jonas, I can explain. No, you can listen. He opened the folder and spread its contents across our coffee table. Bank statements, credit card bills, printed emails, photographs. My entire life laid out like evidence at a crime scene. 3 months and 2 weeks, he said, sitting across from me. That's how long you've been cheating on me. The first time was July 15th, a Tuesday, at 2:47 p.m. You told me you were meeting with a potential client about their social media strategy. I stared at the papers, recognizing hotel receipts, restaurant charges, even parking garage tickets. How did you get all this? You gave me access to all our accounts, remember? For taxes, for household expenses, for Eva's school payments. You never thought to hide your trail because you never thought I was smart enough to follow it. He was right. I'd always handled the finances, but Jonas had login information for everything. I'd never considered that he might use it. The Morrison account, he continued, doesn't exist. I called your office. Stephanie was very helpful. She thought I was planning a surprise for you. Turns out you've been leaving work early twice a week for months, and your boss thinks you're dealing with a family medical issue. My cheeks burned. Jonas, Miles Ibarra lives in a condo downtown. address 425 Pine Street, Unit 12B. He drives a black BMW, license plate 7G4HYT. He's married to Colette, a graphic designer who works from home and has no idea her husband is screwing my wife in hotel rooms across the city. The casual way he delivered these facts made my skin crawl. You've been following me. I've been protecting myself, and Eva, because unlike you, I actually think about how my actions affect other people. He pulled out another set of papers. Legal consultation with Peterson and Associates, filed a preliminary divorce petition, requested a custody evaluation. Oh, and I've already moved half our savings into a separate account. The room spun. You can't do that. That's our money. Actually, I can. I documented every penny you spent on your affair. Hotel rooms, dinners, that expensive lingerie you bought last month that I'd never seen. A judge will be very interested in how you used marital assets to fund your infidelity. I felt sick. Jonas, please, can we just talk about this like adults? I made a mistake. A mistake? His voice rose for the first time all evening. A 3-month affair is not a mistake, Leah. It's a choice. Multiple choices. Hundreds of lies. Hundreds of moments where you chose him over our family. I never chose him over Eva. You chose him over Eva every time you risked our marriage. Every time you lied to me, you were gambling with her stability, her home, her sense of security. The truth of that hit me like a physical blow. I had been thinking about Eva, but only in terms of keeping her from finding out, not in terms of what would happen if she did. What do you want from me? I whispered. Jonas leaned back, studying my face. I want you to understand that the woman who humiliated me on that boat, who's been lying to me for months, who called me background noise, that woman destroyed my marriage. Not me, you. He started gathering up the papers. I'm sleeping in the guest room from now on. Eva doesn't need to know anything yet, but that's going to change soon. My lawyer says I have grounds for full custody, given your extracurricular activities. You can't take Eva from me. I can and I will if you keep lying to me. If you keep seeing him. If you keep treating our family like it's disposable. He stood up, folder in hand. Oh, and Leah, I sent copies of everything to my parents and to Derek. I want them to know who you really are before you try to spin this as my fault. The next few days passed in a blur of shame and panic. I couldn't focus at work, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time my phone rang, I expected it to be someone else who'd heard about the dinner, about the affair, about what a terrible person I was. Marina called constantly, wanting details, offering support, suggesting lawyers. But even she seemed shaken by what had happened. I've never seen Jonas like that, she admitted during one of our coffee meetings. He was so controlled, like he'd been planning it for weeks. He had been planning it. He has documentation going back months, Marina. Bank statements, recordings, photographs. I don't even know when he had time to gather all this stuff. What are you going to do about Miles? I'd been avoiding that question. Miles had called twice since the dinner, but I hadn't answered. What was I supposed to say? That my husband had exposed our affair in front of his entire family? That I was probably about to lose custody of my daughter? I think it's over, I said finally. The affair or the marriage? Both. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure. Jonas had given me an ultimatum, but he hadn't actually filed for divorce yet. Maybe there was still time to fix this, to prove that I could be the wife and mother he needed me to be. That hope died the following Tuesday. I came home from work to find Jonas and Eva at the kitchen table, her homework spread between them. It was such a normal scene that for a moment I let myself believe things might be okay. Then I saw the envelope on the counter. Legal-sized, thick, with my name written in careful block letters. What's this? I asked. Jonas didn't look up from Eva's math worksheet. Custody agreement, temporary, pending the divorce proceedings. My hands shook as I opened it. The document was thorough, professional, devastating. Jonas would have primary custody. I would have supervised visitation every other weekend, pending a psychological evaluation and completion of a counseling program. Supervised visitation. Jonas, she's my daughter. Mummy, you're being loud, Eva said, looking up from her fractions. I forced my voice down. Sorry, baby. Mummy's just tired. But inside, I was screaming. How had this happened? How had I gone from being a wife and mother to being treated like a criminal? We'll discuss it later, Jonas said calmly. Eva, what's 7/8 minus 3/8? As I watched him help our daughter with homework, I realized something that chilled me to the bone. Jonas wasn't angry anymore. He wasn't hurt or betrayed or desperate to save our marriage. He was done with me. And he was very, very good at being done. I should have ended things with Miles immediately after the birthday dinner disaster. Should have focused entirely on salvaging my marriage, my relationship with Eva, my reputation. Instead, I made the worst possible choice. I doubled down. He's trying to control you, Miles said when I finally called him back. This whole public humiliation thing? It's abuse, Leah. Emotional abuse. We were meeting at a different hotel this time, across town, because I was paranoid about Jonas tracking my movements. The Westin felt safer, anonymous, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Maybe I deserved it, I said, pacing the hotel room in my underwear, while Miles watched from the bed. I did cheat on him. I did lie. So, people cheat. It happens. That doesn't give him the right to destroy your life. But even as Miles said it, I could see something different in his eyes. A distance that hadn't been there before. The thrill of our affair had been built on secrecy, on the excitement of getting away with something forbidden. Now that everything was out in the open, now that there were real consequences, the game wasn't fun anymore. What am I supposed to do? I asked. He has lawyers, documentation, a custody agreement. He's thought of everything. Miles shrugged, already reaching for his clothes. Fight back. Get your own lawyer. Show the court that he's vindictive, controlling. Make him look like the bad guy. But I am the bad guy, Miles. I'm the one who cheated. Only because he drove you to it. What kind of husband ignores his wife's needs? What kind of man is so boring that his wife has to look elsewhere for excitement? It was exactly what I wanted to hear, the validation I'd been craving for months. But something about the way he said it felt rehearsed, like he'd given this speech before to other married women in other hotel rooms. Are you going to leave Colette? I asked suddenly. Miles paused in buttoning his shirt. What? Your wife. Are you going to leave her? For me? The question hung in the air between us. In all our months together, we'd never talked about the future, about what would happen if our spouses found out, about whether this was leading anywhere beyond stolen afternoons and hotel rooms. Leah, Miles said carefully, let's not complicate things. You need to focus on your situation with Jonas. My situation, right. I pulled on my dress, suddenly feeling exposed in more ways than one. So this is just a fling for you. It's not a fling. It's complicated. No, Miles. Complicated is what I have at home. This is just sex. He didn't deny it. That night, I sat in my car in the hotel parking garage for 20 minutes, crying until my makeup ran and my chest ached. Everything was falling apart. My marriage, my affair, my relationship with Eva, my standing in our social circle. And I was doing it to myself, making one bad choice after another. When I finally got home, Jonas was reading in the living room. He looked up when I walked in, took in my disheveled appearance and red-rimmed eyes, and went back to his book without comment. Jonas, I said, we need to talk. Do we? I want to fix this. Our marriage. I want to try. He closed his book, something thick about the Civil War, and looked at me with that steady gaze that had become so unnerving. Where were you tonight, Leah? I had dinner with Marina. Marina's in Chicago until Thursday. Work conference. She posted about it on Instagram. My stomach dropped. I'd forgotten about Marina's trip, had used her as an alibi without thinking. I meant I had dinner alone. I needed time to think. At the Westin Hotel? The words hit me like ice water. What? Jonas pulled out his phone and showed me a photograph. Me, walking through the Westin lobby in the dress I was currently wearing. The timestamp showed it was taken 3 hours ago. How did you? I hired a private investigator, Leah, 3 weeks ago. His name is Robert Chen, and he's very good at his job. I sank into the armchair across from him, my legs suddenly unable to support me. You're having me followed. I'm protecting my interests, and Eva's interests, because clearly you can't be trusted to tell the truth about anything. He swiped to the next photo, Miles and me in the hotel elevator, his hand on my back. Then another, us kissing in the hallway, outside room 1247. I gave you a chance, Jonas said quietly. After the dinner, after I showed you the custody papers, I gave you a chance to end it, to choose your family. Instead, you chose him. Jonas, please, I'm done, Leah. Completely done. Tomorrow morning, I'm filing the divorce papers. Full custody, minimal alimony, division of assets based on your misuse of marital funds. My lawyer says it's an open and shut case. The room was spinning. You can't take Eva from me. I can and I will, because you've proven that you can't put her needs first. You've proven that you'll lie, cheat, and manipulate to get what you want, regardless of who gets hurt. He stood up, tucking his phone into his pocket. Oh, and Leah. Robert got some very interesting photos of Miles with another woman last Friday. Brunette, about 25, not his wife. Apparently, you're not his only side piece. The words hit me like a physical blow. That's not... He wouldn't... Wouldn't what? Cheat on the woman he's already cheating with? Why would you be special, Leah? You're just another married woman looking for excitement. He's probably got 3 others just like you. Jonas headed toward the guest room, then paused at the doorway. By the way, I called your boss today. Told him about your afternoon meetings, your fake client, your use of company time for personal affairs. He was very understanding, said these things happen, but that the company has policies about employee conduct. My blood turned to ice. Jonas, no, don't do this. I need my job. You should have thought about that before you decided to fuck your ex-coworker on company time. The crude language sounded wrong coming from Jonas, jarring and final. He never swore, never lost his temper, never said anything designed to hurt. But this wasn't the Jonas I'd married. This was someone else entirely. Someone I'd created with my lies and betrayals. Please, I whispered. I'll do anything. I'll end it with Miles. I'll go to counseling. I'll sign a post-nup. Just don't take Eva from me. Jonas looked at me for a long moment, and I thought I saw something flicker in his eyes. Sadness, maybe, or regret. Then it was gone. You already took Eva from yourself, Leah. I'm just making it official. The next morning, I woke up alone. Jonas was already gone. He'd taken Eva to school and headed to work without saying goodbye. The house felt empty, hollow, like a stage set after the actors had left. I called in sick to work, then spent the morning on the phone with divorce lawyers. The 3 I spoke to all said essentially the same thing. Given the evidence of my affair, the recorded admissions, and Jonas's documentation of my lies, I was in a very weak position. The best I could hope for was shared custody and a fair division of assets. The worst-case scenario was losing Eva entirely. By noon, I was drunk on wine, left over from happier times, scrolling through social media and seeing my life from the outside. Jonas's friends were posting supportive messages on his timeline. Derek had shared an article about supporting friends through difficult divorces. Even some of my own colleagues were commenting on posts in ways that suggested they'd heard about my situation. The humiliation was complete and public.